So, bom dia, hello to all. On behalf of CIRET, le Centre International de Recherches et d'Études Transdisciplinaires, and CETRANS, Centro de Educação Transdisciplinar, we are here to introduce the theme, the Transdisciplinary Mediator for Effective Problem Solving in Organizations and Civil Society. Nós estamos aqui reunidos para falar do mediador transdisciplinar para soluções efetivas de problemas nas organizações e sociedade civil. I'm very happy to introduce you to the two participants and invited guests from CIRET and both CETRANS, Dr. Juarez Francisco da Silva, who will speak about transdisciplinarity in daily life, and the engineer Leonardo da Silva Guimarães Martins da Costa, who is introducing us to the holopraxis transdisciplinary management theory, published in 2022. So we're going to start with an introduction of who are our invited guests. Juarez Francisco da Silva is a doctor in psychology. He's born in a southern Brazilian Indian village, the son of a mother of German origin and father descended from the second generation of Guarani culture. His childhood was permeated by the coexistence of several religions, mystical and cultural traditions of the region, cultivated in common agreement by the occupation of the small geographic space, as by the openness in the dialogue of concepts. Leaving the small village at the end of 10, the disposition of physical energy was directed to high-performance sports in the modalities of volleyball and handball in Brazilian clubs. The intellectual curiosity was accentuated with the discoveries of new way of living, as in the professional career at Banco do Brasil for 22 years. Clinical psychologist, psychopedagogue, physical educator, organizational consultant for people management, transdisciplinary university professor, conflict mediator in family business with a master's degree in theology, master's degree in organizations and development, and doctorate in education. Counselor of UNIPI's International University of Peace, director and mentoring in the company Thought and Talent, and facilitator of research on universal traditions in the Institute Morada das Tradições. About engineer Leonardo. Leonardo da Silva Guimarães Martins da Costa is a civil engineer with an emphasis on sanitary engineer. Former business manager coming from a third generation of civil engineer entrepreneur, postgraduate in engineering, economics, executive MBA in corporate management, Brazilian federal civil servant in the management front office, Federal Auditor of Finance and Control, IFFC career, as Executive Secretary of the Board of PIS-PASEP, a trust funds of saving accounts. The author worked as an articulator, coordinating working groups between generalists and specialists, and promoted process simplification through the transdisciplinary approach. Executive Secretary of the Board of FCVS, a public special fund, independent transdisciplinary researcher, and creator of the theory and praxis, holopraxis transdisciplinary management, 8 articles in English published in USA, France, Canada, and South Africa. 1 book, 2 monographs, and 3 articles were published in Portuguese until 2023 to complete the framework of the holopraxis transdisciplinary management. As an introduction, please, Engineer Leonardo, would you be so kind as to read the introduction? And I will translate it in Portuguese.
So I'll read the introduction made by Dr. Mariana on philosophy aspects. Philosophy is interested in studying what is unique, a human being who cannot be reproduced or modeled, a person who is unforeseen and who affects us, the meaning of a life in an unprecedented, provisional, and contingent context, in a world that wishes to standardize everything, to predict everything, to know everything, the roughness and strangeness of a singular being becomes a scandal and an insurmountable obstacle for certain members of scientific research. However, although difficult, the dialogue between science and philosophy appears necessary and fruitful if we want to human mutations to be sensible and allow us a future.
A filosofia está interessada em estudar o que é único, um ser humano que não pode ser reproduzido ou modelado, uma pessoa que é imprevista e que nos afeta. O sentido de uma vida num contexto inédito, provisório e contingente, num mundo que quer padronizar tudo, prever tudo, saber tudo, a aspereza e a estranheza de um ser singular tornam-se um escândalo e um obstáculo intransponível para certos membros da pesquisa científica. No entanto, embora difícil, o diálogo entre a ciência e a filosofia parece necessário e fecundo se quisermos que as nossas mutações humanas sejam sensatas e nos permitam um futuro. So, always in the introduction, I would like to say that the presentation will be made in a whole by the engineer Leonardo. Then we will open to questions in Portuguese, French, Spanish, and English. So we are receiving all language, and I will answer to Dr. Hubert Landier in French, and he can speak French during the questions. Please, Engineer Leonardo, would you be so kind as do your presentation?
Okay, Dr. Mariana. As you said in the introduction, there is a complementarity between philosophy and science, and this is part of my theory. I will talk now about the problem solving in terms of level of complexity, complementarities at first. For solving problems, we have to have a diagnosis first of the level of complexity. I can see in my theory 3 levels. The first one is the mechanistic as a model for machines, a binary logic of true or false is the simplest one. The second one, which is more complex, the systemic, like in living systems, self-regulated, in a feedback logic. And the third one, the more complex, when none of those two is applied, is the transdisciplinary, when human phenomena, complex human phenomena is concerned. So we have to use the logic of the third included, the dialogue between opposites until a middle term is reached for solution. So we can see in this scheme of the 3 paradigms, the simplest one is mechanistic, a more complex systemic, and the most complex of all TD. So the idea is to use the simplest one according to the concrete case, okay? We use mechanistics for binary logic and the variables are like machines. The systemic, if the variables are similar to living systems, and transdisciplinary if there are complex psychological and human phenomena issues. So this is the complex issue. About complementarities, my theory has basically 2 complementarities. The technical abilities in dialogue with human abilities. Technical abilities can be seen as hard skills, and those hard skills has to dialogue with soft skills, human abilities. Or something analog to the analytical method that is based on causality, cause and effect prevail, like in Western philosophy, the idea of fragmentation. In complementarity with the soft skills, human ability of the synthetic method, based on synchronicity, the meaning, not cause and effect, but the meaning prevails, like in Oriental philosophy in the majority, the idea of integration, okay? So this is the first complementary, but there are inside hard skills and technical abilities, there are other two complementarities and also in soft skills. Let us see first the well-known in science, that is the rational intelligence in complementarity with the empirical intelligence. For problem solving using rational intelligence, we have the requirement of rationality, and the result of the product must be simplicity. We can see in history, history of science, Leonardo da Vinci said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Isaac Newton, in his Principia Mathematica, said that nature likes simplicity. And also Albert Einstein, in physics, more than in relativistic physics, said that everything must be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. So that's the traditional idea of science. We know the rational intelligence that compounds the deductive method, but it has to dialogue with the empirical intelligence for solving problems. And in this case, the requirement for solving empirically problems, if typical of engineering, for example, is viability, and the product must be effective. The result, not only efficient. Sometimes people confuse efficiency with effectiveness. Effectiveness is something broader than efficiency. Efficiency means only cost or process in accordance to what's predicted. So this is about the inductive method, from the concrete to abstract, and the deductive method from the abstract to the concrete. In a dialogue between those two, there is the analytical method. But we have to talk about the other complementaries related to soft skills for solving problems. The first one is the intuitive intelligence involving meaningfulness. An idea has to have meaning in a context. If it has no meaning, there is no idea that can be discussed. And the product of this idea is dialectics, for the solution be a good one. Dialectics means involving all actors in the discussion. No idea must be suppressed. Everybody must be listened to. In the other part of this complementarity is the emotional intelligence. Regarding reasonableness as a requirement, reasonableness means wisdom. Sometimes people confuse reasonableness with rationality. There is nothing to do with rationality. Rationality is objective thinking. Reasonableness is deciding based on wisdom and acceptability, ethics, etc. Okay, so the result of this solution must be sustainable, not sustainable in terms of economical, financial only, or environmental. Everybody talks about environmental sustainability, but sometimes only in physical terms of the environment. But people tend to forget the psychological sustainability, which, in my opinion, is the most important in organizations. So that's the main point, sustainability, especially in psychological terms. So these two compound the synthetic method. What is the synthetic method? The ideas for solutions, the brainstorm. And you test these ideas with the analytical method in working groups. How? The analytical method propose questions, and the questions goes back to the synthetic methods in the realm of ideas, and the ideas provide some answers, and then you have a cycle of interaction, dialogue, and complementarity, okay? So that's the idea of my model for problem solving, involving levels of complexity and complementarities. Now I'll go through the Portuguese version so that Mariana can comment in Portuguese, the model.
O modelo analítico apresentado pelo engenheiro Leonardo, ele mostra as complexidades e complementaridades para a resolução de problemas, em inglês troubleshooting, né? E ele vai, nesse modelo, nesse esquema, dá ênfase na complementaridade entre as capacidades humanas e as capacidades técnicas. Então, se vocês olham a coluna da esquerda, capacidades humanas, a gente chama de soft skills em inglês, que são as habilidades mais sutis, né? E as capacidades técnicas, hard skills, que são as habilidades duras. E ele vai definir os soft skills como inteligência intuitiva e emocional e hard skill como racional e empírica. Para explicar toda a complexidade desse esquema, nós vamos fazer uma palestra só em português, né? Eu peço que vocês, se quiserem, fotografiem a tela, né? E nós vamos voltar aos esquemas que são extremamente complexos de explicação numa palestra só em português. Thank you very much, Engineer Leonardo. Please, can we proceed?
Now we are continuing. We have seen already the complex levels and the idea of complementarity that must be observed in order to solve problems with effectiveness, right? Now we have the 4 archetypal elements that are involved in this kind of complementarities. Archetypal means the ancient and universal, right? Where does this come from? Comes from 4 types of intelligence based on the analytical psychology functions. And I listed here from level abstraction, from the most abstract to the more concrete, right? The first one would be the intuitive intelligence based on the abstract, the symbolic, the new ideas, innovation, insights, and foreseeing problems, even if you don't know exactly what is the problem. Mariana, in Portuguese.
Please. Inteligência intuitiva, baseada no abstrato, no simbólico, nas ideias, nas inovações, nos insights, na antevisão de problemas.
The second level of abstraction is rational intelligence based on the objective, linear, logical, Cartesian, Newtonian, and mechanistic approach.
Inteligência racional é objetiva, linear, lógica, cartesiana, newtoniana e mecanicista.
The third one, emotional intelligence, as I said before, involving wisdom, the subjective ability to decide with wisdom, self-control, relationship skills of the leader, including the ethics perspectives of understanding something acceptable or not in terms of wisdom also.
Inteligência emocional envolve a capacidade subjetiva de tomar decisões, habilidades de autocontrole, de relacionamento com o outro, inclusive quanto à perspectiva ética.
And last but not least, the empirical intelligence, the more concrete one, focused on the concrete observation of facts, effective troubleshooting, meaning effective problem solving, and body conscious skills, for example, in athletes and dancers. That's the same idea.
Inteligência empírica focada no concreto, na observação dos fatos, na solução de problemas, efetivamente, e nas habilidades de consciência corporal.
So these 4 intelligences are related to 4 epistemic ways, or the 4 main disciplines in the transdisciplinary approach. The first one is philosophy. Philosophy involves the abstract and the objective, or the intuitive and rational at the same time. The second, tradition, involves abstract and subjective, or intuitive and emotional. The art involves the emotional and empirical, or the subjective and the concrete. And last, technoscience involves rational and empirical, or objective and concrete.
So
and technoscience just a minute.
Okay.
Technoscience has a particularity that it is the feedback between technology and science. Sometimes people confuse science and technology because there is always a feedback of discoveries in science and discoveries in technology that become science. And sometimes it is like that dialectic process of discovering. I said about analytical and synthetic, right? Okay, Dr. Mariana.
Então, thank you, Engineer Leonardo. So, os 4 tipos de inteligência estão... a gente pode reconhecer esses 4 tipos no pensamento transdisciplinar: intuitivo, racional, emocional e empírico. No entanto, o engenheiro Leonardo ele dá ênfase que a filosofia é mais intuitiva e racional, a arte mais emocional e empírica, a tradição vai usar inteligência intuitiva e a inteligência emocional, e a tecnociência, inteligência racional e inteligência empírica. We can proceed. Thank you.
Now I'm gonna go to a table that shows at the same time the levels of complexity, the complementarities, and the 4 types of intelligence. Okay? Considering the levels of complexity, as we have already seen, the 3 types of paradigm, the mechanistic, systemic, and transdisciplinary, TD. Those paradigms involve mechanistic, it may be considered as science, as an epistemic form, part of technoscience only, right? Systemic as a technoscience at one of that 4 epistemic forms, and TD, the 4 together. But this way, philosophy and tradition represent the abstract, the realm of ideas, and the art and technoscience, the concrete, for problem solving. You can see, for example, I guess most of engineers, lawyers, economists, doctors, and therapists know that their profession are a mixture between art and science, okay? Because they are dealing with concrete problems to be solved. So that's the idea of the transdisciplinary approach for complexity of human phenomena. In this connection, the types of logic, the binary for mechanistic science, the idea of machines, mathematics, true or false, simple cause and effect, okay? And then the second, when the problem involves systems similar to living systems, self-regulated living systems, as in homeostasis, for example, the regulation of the body temperature. So in this case, cause and effects are in feedback. You can isolate cause and effect. They are always in feedback, and there are many sometimes. And the third one, more complex, involve the complexity of human phenomena, is the dialogue of opposites to deal with this question. And then it will be similar to the dialectics in philosophy, the 2 opposites dialoguing in order to reach a middle term solution, okay? And the types of intelligence in this context. In science, mechanistic, dominantly rational with flashes of intuitive. How can I corroborate that? For example, with Albert Einstein, a physicist, he said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and rational mind is a faithful servant. Also, you can have the example of Kekulé when he found out the formula for benzene in a dream. It was intuition. And then there is a connection between intuition and rational in pure science. But when we talk about the systemic view, more complex, it is dominantly rational with empirical aspect, with flashes of intuitive also, like in science. And we have an example here of the quote of Fritjof Capra, which is a physicist and environmental activist that founded the Eco-Literacy Center in California. He said that there is no absolute truth in science. It means he is showing the limitations of pure science. All concepts and theories are limited and approximate, okay? So that would be the systemic view. Capra himself has a holistic systems view, as he shows. So the third one, we would use the 4 types of intelligence in dialogue with each other. In my theory, I call this quaternary complementarities. Why? Because we have the 4 intelligence, rational, empirical, intuitive, and emotional, in complementarities between each other. Various combinations of complementarities, okay? That's why quaternary complementarities. As example, We have Manfred Max Neef, he was deceased, he passed away in 2019. He was a professor of economy in Stanford in the 60s. And then in the beginning of the 80s, he was awarded the alternative Nobel for his theory of economics, barefoot economics. And he said that in Stanford, I was used to diagnosing and analyzing, but not used to understanding. That's what he tried to do in his barefoot economics. And he also has an article called Foundations of Transdisciplinarity. He is also maybe a transdisciplinary theorist by considering this article. So this new idea of understanding beyond knowledge appears, and also with Roberto Crema, who is an anthropologist, psychologist, and creator of the third force in therapy. Also, he's the dean of Unipaz in Brazil, a transdisciplinary approach. He's a transdisciplinary theorist, the Brazilian holistic transdisciplinary. So his idea is judging is the failure of listening and understanding. Understanding again, but a new idea here of listening. And here we begin with the idea of the transdisciplinary mediator, the one who listens and understands, in my opinion, because that's not what Crema said. That's the next slide, but then I'll speak in Portuguese so that Mariana can comment in Portuguese.
Então,
Mariana?
Os níveis de complexidade para a solução concreta de problemas, pela holopraxis teoria de management, ela se distribui através das epistemologias mecanicista, sistêmica e transdisciplinar. Pela mecanicista, a gente se refere à ciência, o modelo binário, matemático, a questão das máquinas, né, verdadeiro ou falso, a questão da relação causa e efeito, com uma dominante racional com lampejos de inteligência intuitiva. A mente intuitiva é um dom sagrado e a mente racional um servo fiel, Albert Einstein. Para o paradigma sistêmico, né, epistemologia da tecnociência, com feedback dos sistemas vivos autorregulados, como na homeostase, causa e efeito retroalimentados. Hoje nós temos também a expressão na antropologia brasileira de bioepistemologia, né, que depois a gente pode talvez discutir nas trocas. A dominante é racional empírica com lampejos de intuitiva. Não existe verdade absoluta na ciência. Todos os conceitos e teorias são limitados e aproximados. Enfim, o paradigma transdisciplinar, ele coaduna filosofia, tradição, tecnociência e arte. Essa epistemologia é uma epistemologia do terceiro incluído, que autoriza o diálogo de opostos para tratar a complexidade dos fenômenos humanos. Os quatro tipos precisam dialogar entre si, o que o engenheiro Leonardo chama de complementaridades quaternárias, racional, empírica, intuitiva e emocional. Estava habituado a diagnosticar e analisar, mas não habituado a compreender, Manfred Max Neef, né? Quer dizer, a questão mesmo da compreensão vai envolver todo o nosso aparato de várias inteligências, né? Tanto a racional, quanto a empírica, a intuitiva e a emocional. E o Roberto Crema, que é reitor da Unipaz, também foi uma inspiração para o engenheiro Leonardo. O julgamento é o fracasso da escuta e da compreensão, quer dizer, necessidade também para a mediação da escuta e da compreensão. So let's see now that we have defined all the types of intelligence. What is the transdisciplinarity mediator? And here we have a quote of Professor Hubert Landier, who is present, and we are very honored with his presence tonight. So please, Engineer Leonardo, would you be so kind as to proceed?
So the idea of the transdisciplinary mediator can go through various disciplines to create an integration through understanding beyond and through disciplines, which may lead the mediator to 4 dimensions. Mariana, would you like to say in Portuguese?
Yes, okay. I translate sentence by sentence. Just a minute, please.
If you want, I can complete and then you translate.
No, it's okay. A ideia do mediador transdisciplinar pode passar por várias disciplinas para criar uma integração de compreensão para além e através das disciplinas, o que pode levar o mediador a 4 dimensões.
The first dimension is generalist, a promoter of the dialogue between generalist and specialist to solve problems.
Generalista, promotor de diálogo entre generalistas e especialistas para a solução de problemas.
The second, peacemaker, a facilitator, articulator, and conflict harmonizer through dialectics.
O pacificador, um facilitador, articulador e harmonizador de conflitos por meio da dialética.
Ghostbuster, to avoid problems under the carpet by putting the right people in the right place. This refers to the idea of Dr. Landier, who is present here also.
Caça-fantasmas, evitar que os problemas fiquem debaixo do tapete, colocando as pessoas certas no lugar certo. Se vocês quiserem fazer perguntas para o professor Landier, que está aqui presente, vai ser uma honra para nós, ele vai poder responder sobre essa ideia de caça-fantasmas, né?
Okay, the fourth one, welcoming. To listen with attention and welcome all actors effectively. Remember, effectively is more than efficient. Effectively is in a broader sense, accepting all different opinions, not only in a rational or pro forma way. Pro forma means only bureaucratically, so that the result of the discussion reflects the group view as a whole, including the questions under the carpet emerging from the unconscious.
O acolhedor, ele tem que ouvir com atenção e acolher todos os intervenientes, aceitando efetivamente todas as opiniões diferentes, não apenas de forma racional ou pro forma, para que o resultado da discussão reflita a visão do grupo como um todo, incluídas questões debaixo do tapete que emergem do inconsciente.
So it's important to say that this expertise can avoid costs for organizations and civil society because the problem is solved before it happens or in the beginning.
Essa competência pode evitar custos para as organizações e para a sociedade civil porque o problema é resolvido antes de acontecer ou no início.
Transdisciplinary mediators act like fire extinguishers before the fire spreads.
Os mediadores transdisciplinares atuam como extintores de incêndio antes que o fogo se propague.
Also, those mediators promote the consciousness development to listen more than bureaucratically and rationally, with the substance and integration of all stakeholders or actors involving work groups and organizations.
Além disso, esses mediadores promovem o desenvolvimento da consciência de ouvir mais que burocraticamente e racionalmente, com aceitação e integração de todos os intervenientes ou atores envolvidos em grupos de trabalho e organizações.
So effective solutions are developed in cases where the crisis is already installed, but there can be also preventive action. So there are 2 types here, where the crisis is already installed and just as preventive actions. In both cases, the intervention is necessary.
Assim, as soluções eficazes são desenvolvidas no caso em que a crise já está instalada, mas também pode haver uma ação preventiva. Em ambos os casos, a intervenção é necessária. So, here are the references. If you want to have a look at the screen and take pictures of the mainly works of the engineer Leonardo. And now we are going to open the dialogue. We have 20 minutes of dialogue before entering with the presentation of Dr. Juarez. So, agora nós vamos abrir para perguntas. Nós temos 20 minutos de perguntas antes da apresentação do Dr. Juarez, doutor em psicologia, que vai dar a sua visão de mediação, complementando a visão do engenheiro Leonardo. Por favor, fiquem à vontade de perguntar. Please feel free to question. Can you open your mics, please? Vocês podem abrir os seus microfones. And do you have any questions?
Hi, Mariana. Excuse me.
Yes.
But my English is very poor. Chico?
Chico, do as you wish. Go with your English or Portuguese.
In Portuguese. My English is very poor. I have a problem to understand when you speak very rápido. Como é que se fala? Muito rápido, eu não entendo muito bem. E o meu vocabulário é very quick, and my vocabulary is very short, too. I prefer to ask you in Portuguese, no problem?
No problem.
Ok. Eu tenho falado bastante, eu estudei durante longo tempo o método eslético.
I studied the method eclectic.
Do De Bono. O De Bono que começou com essa ideia, né? O Eduardo De Bono.
De Bono started with this idea.
E eu trabalhei bastante sobre essa questão, já coloquei algumas vezes no nosso grupo também, que ela vem em complemento, inclusive, à dialógica, né? Uma outra forma de você tratar a dialética e passando, inclusive, fazendo uma evolução.
Minutinho, Chico.
Okay.
Chico. So, esthetic is another method than dialectic, and is a dialogic method.
E eu queria saber se alguém tem trabalhado isso, qual a visão que tem sobre o método eslético.
Chico, can you please define eslético for us?
A eslética é uma maneira de você olhar todos os envolvidos no processo. Né? Tem sido
eslétic is a way to look at all the stakeholders.
Tem sido aplicado em algumas áreas no Brasil na questão jurídica, bastante, com bastante ênfase.
It has been used in Brazil in justice area.
E na educação também. Eu passei todo o material no grupo. Viu, Mariana? Eu passei todo um material no grupo aí, é um trabalho bastante extenso, bastante...
I have a huge work about esthetic, and I send it to the group of CETRANS. Maybe I can share in CIRET as well, okay? Eu vou partilhar no CIRET.
Mariana, may I answer him?
Yes.
In English?
You
was asking about the esthetic or esthetic? Esthetic method. Esthetic method. So yes. I am an engineer and manager. I'm not a philosopher, and I'm not from the human science. So I can tell you about my experience in working groups and with law, because I'm a civil servant. We have now the systemic law promoted by the Brazilian bar that sounds like what Chico said about the esthetic method, about having mediation before going to the conflict, right?
Para nós peraí, um minutinho, Leonardo. Chico, você está entendendo o que o Leonardo está dizendo em inglês?
Yes.
Mas o pessoal, eu vou traduzir para quem não entende inglês, que eles têm esse método no setor público brasileiro, quer dizer, de tentar apagar o incêndio antes que ele se desenvolva, né?
Não, eu estou desenvolvendo. O setor público não tem formal. Eu estou dizendo do direito sistêmico. Eu estou vendo isso eu estou dizendo que eu estou vendo no direito sistêmico e estou vendo também, pela minha experiência de 12 anos coordenando grupo de trabalhos, eu faço isso que ele está dizendo nessa slide. Em resumo.
Tá bom. Tá bom. Em resumo, o professor Landier está com a mão levantada. Professeur Landier, est-ce que vous voulez poser votre question?
Volontiers. I am sorry for my poor English, so I prefer to speak French. And thank you for Dr. Mariana Thieriot to translate.
Je vais faire au mieux, professeur.
Ma question est la suivante. Je me suis très bien reconnu dans la définition qui a été donnée de la médiation. En France, les dirigeants d'entreprise se situent dans un paradigme rationaliste et ont beaucoup de difficultés à accepter qu'il y ait d'autres formes d'approche de la réalité et la possibilité d'une médiation entre ces différentes formes de vision du monde. Je voudrais savoir...
Donc, je traduis ça. Hein?
Oui.
Oui, donc, I recognize myself totally in the mediation paradigm that was presented here. In France, the management usually use the rationalist paradigm, and it is very, very complicated for them to have the whole range of intelligence types and to act with the soft skills. They usually work more with hard skills. So he's going to ask his question now. Pardon, professeur,
oui.
Allez-y.
Votre question. Je veux savoir si au Brésil, les dirigeants d'entreprise, les managers acceptent davantage qu'en France de faire appel aux soft skills pour anticiper les risques de conflits et de difficultés.
Então, eu gostaria de saber se no Brasil os empresários costumam usar mais os soft skills para antecipar os riscos de conflito antes que eles possam emergir.
May I answer in English?
Yes, please.
You have to try in English. Otherwise, people
me dá minuto para eu traduzir enquanto você está falando, tá bom?
No, but we have to speak so that what's the question in English? Is question in English? You said in Portuguese.
So I recognize, I'm sorry, I recognize myself in this vision.
It's natural.
Please, in Brazil, yes, please, in Brazil, does the manager, Brazilian, are used to soft skills in order to prevent the conflicts before they emerge?
I can see that in Brazil. I was an entrepreneur before for 16 years. I have a tradition. I'm a third generation of civil engineering entrepreneurs. I have worked in international trading, so I know the management very well.
Ma pause aí. Il est ingénieur de 3e génération et entrepreneur de 3e génération. Donc, il va parler en tant qu'entrepreneur brésilien.
So, what I see in Brazil, especially with my colleagues, is that they use a lot of intuition, as Einstein said, to foresee.
Eles usam muita intuição, como diz Einstein. They use a lot of intuition. Ils utilisent beaucoup de l'intuition, en fait.
Sometimes they do not accept an economical financial study, even if it's analytically perfect, if they feel something is wrong. See, it's intuition.
Ils sont très, très intuitifs. Donc, parfois, il y a une étude économique et qui est très logique, mais ils vont refuser cette étude économique parce qu'ils vont agir intuitivement. Às vezes, os empresários brasileiros têm uma tendência a agir de forma intuitiva. Quer dizer, por exemplo, vai haver um estudo econômico lógico sobre o problema e eles vão preferir a intuição ao estudo lógico que foi submetido.
But
Can I answer too?
Pode falar
finish.
em português. Pode falar em português.
Posso dar uma resposta também?
Um minutinho.
Let me finish first. I need to finish first. The second part is because I don't see emotional intelligence very well developed here in Brazil, on the other side. Even in the public sector, because public administration is much more complex than private administration, especially in Brazil. We have a lot of laws and etc. So complex. What we see both in the private sector, in public sector, is the lack of that emotional intelligence in praxis. As you said in your idea of phantom in the organizations, and about the idea of the, what's the name of the audit? That's not an accountability audit. The other name you said in French. I asked about that kind of social audit. Social audit. This idea is not yet common in Brazil. Although some people already know about the idea of social audit. Okay, I don't know how is it in France. That's it.
Ok. Alors, professeur Landier, il est très intéressé par votre idée d'audit social qui n'existe pas au Brésil, que ce soit dans le secteur privé ou dans le secteur public, au niveau de l'émotion, l'intelligence émotionnelle n'est pas développée. Il y a beaucoup de lois, donc on se perd parfois dans ces lois, dans une certaine lenteur bureaucratique. Et il n'a jamais vu au Brésil l'idée d'audit social ni l'idée de deux médiateurs, c'est-à-dire que on puisse fonctionner en tandem dans la médiation, comme je lui ai traduit un des textes que vous avez écrits. Je traduis en português e vous répondez. Então, no Brasil, seja no setor privado como no setor público, não há, na realidade, muito uso da inteligência emocional, porque parece que esses sistemas ainda estejam engessados num número de leis muito grandes, o que vai lentificar os processos de resolução.
No setor público, a lei é no setor público. No setor privado, você pode fazer tudo que a lei não veda. Então, é menos importante isso. Só observação.
Tá bom. Na questão da auditoria social que foi desenvolvida para o professor Landier, nós não temos no Brasil essa auditoria social, nem a intervenção que ele sugeriu de dois mediadores. Agora, palavra professor Landier. Cher professeur, vous pouvez y aller. Merci.
Merci pour cette réponse. Et j'enverrai à Mariana un texte qui peut être utile pour l'ingénieur Leonardo dans son action.
Eu vou enviar um texto para o engenheiro Leonardo via Mariana, que pode ser importante para ele no seu dia a dia, né?
Thank you, Dr. Landier.
Muito obrigada. Isabelle, Eliséon e Chico estão de mão levantadas. Isabelle, 1 minute. J'ai une question de Francisco et ensuite je vous passe la parole. Merci, professeur Landier. Francisco, por favor.
Eu trabalhei 23 anos no Banco do Estado do Paraná, inclusive em níveis de gerência, de assessoria e por aí afora. E tive empresa durante 23 anos também, quase que sempre na área de tecnologia da informação. Eu tenho uma visão um pouco diferente com essa relação, com relação à questão de mediação de conflitos. Tanto é que no banco, o banco era uma empresa de economia mista, a gente tinha uma mediação de conflitos. E na minha empresa eu sempre trabalhei isso também. É só uma observação em relação ao que o Leonardo colocou, tá bom? não é bem uma pergunta, ok?
Ah,
Obrigado.
tá. É para sinalizar uma visão diferente. Chico, nós vamos ouvir o professor Juarez, que vai dar toda uma outra visão da psicologia da mediação. Então, talvez, né, você se reconheça aí. E eu vou passar, então, vou traduzir rapidamente e vou passar a palavra para a nossa colega aqui.
É uma visão bem empresarial, entendeu? Que é mais ou menos o que o Leonardo estava colocando. Só por isso.
Ah,
mas tá, okay.
Tá bom.
Tá bom, obrigado.
Então, imagina, Chico. Et docteur Isabelle Élyséon, juste une petite minute pour que je traduise en anglais. So, Francisco worked on the Banco of Paraná. He was used to mediate conflicts in a technological field, but he's have a different approach from Leonardo, but we are going to listen to Dr. Juarez in 3 minutes. So we will have another approach of mediation. Welcome, Professor Élyséon. Would you like to speak in Portuguese or English?
Eu vou falar em português et en français. Je vais parler en portugais et en français pour le même texte en français et en português. O mesmo texto em português e em francês. Bom dia para todos, bonsoir à tout le monde. En fait, c'était simplement pour faire écho, rebondir sur ce qui vient d'être dit au sens large, en apportant um témoignage. Eu queria fazer uma testemunha sobre o que se falou no sentido mais largo.
So I would like to make a testimony in the large sense of what was said here.
Yeah. Sur deux choses principalement, sur la hiérarchisation des savoirs et des pratiques d'une part, et sur la difficulté de valoriser l'intelligence émotionnelle d'autre part. De uma parte na hierarquização, não sei como se fala na verdade.
Isso, na hierarquização que existe nas organizações, né?
Dos saberes e das práticas, e a dificuldade de outro lado de valorizar la intelligence émotionnelle. Et donc, pour ça, en fait, je me base sur mon terrain, donc moi en tant qu'acteur de terrain qui travaille sur des projets art-sciences. Donc, art avec des artistes et science avec des scientifiques en sciences de la mer. Et eu me apoio sobre a minha experiência de terreno com artista de lado e cientista em ciências do mar.
Ah, tá perfeito. Eu vou traduzir para o inglês, né? So her question is about the hierarchization on the organization, the hierarchy of the knowledge and the practices. And is also of the problem of the intelligence, the emotional intelligence. She works in a project of art and science of the sea. So she combines both art and science in her work.
Yeah.
Vamos lá.
Obrigada, Mariana. E com dois tipos de pessoas, avec deux types de personnes. Hein. C'est-à-dire que je suis en fait, c'est pour ça que ça rebondit sur ce que vous disiez, et eu sou mediadora. Et je suis une médiatrice entre le travail qui se développe avec les artistes et avec les scientifiques. Donc, je travaille avec plusieurs types de personnes.
Então, I'm mediator and I work with artists and scientific. And I recognize myself as a mediator in between art and science. Well, we have a timing problem.
Yeah, it's just to finish, pardon, en anglais. Pour terminer, c'est juste qu'il y a vraiment pour moi une complexité, ce qui est intéressant, mais aussi des complications en termes de hiérarchisation et en termes de valorisation d'intelligence émotionnelle.
Para mim, existe realmente uma dificuldade em termos de hierarquização nas organizações, dos saberes das práticas, e uma dificuldade na inteligência emocional, né? Então, for me, there is really a problem with the hierarchy in the organization of the knowledge and the practice, and with the intelligence, emotional intelligence. Maybe Professor Juarez will answer that topic now. Bom, uma gota de água e vamos lá. Professor Juarez, may we start? Podemos começar? Professor Juarez?
Pois não, podemos sim, Mariana.
Então, vamos lá. Professor, o senhor lê uma frase e eu vou traduzindo a frase em inglês. Tudo bem?
Ok. Good morning, bonjour a todos. I will speak in Portuguese, but Mariana will translate to us. Thank you very much, Mariana.
Welcome. Bem-vindo.
Para pensar transdisciplinarmente, eu reconheço um fundamento na minha própria história de vida, seja pela dinamicidade, pela dialógica cultural em que a vida sempre me ofereceu e oportunizou.
In order to think transdisciplinarily, I recognize a basis in my own life history, either because of the dynamics, the cultural dialogue that life has always offered me and given me the opportunity.
Desde a aldeia onde eu nasci, na região sul do Brasil, a minha eclética formação profissional, em que o corpo foi o mediador especial entre a timidez e a simplicidade, até os canais mais ocultos do espírito e dos variados ambientes por onde passeio respeitosamente.
From the village where I was born here in the South region of Brazil, my eclectic professional background in which the body was the special mediator between shyness and simplicity to the more hidden channels of the spirit and the varied environments through which I respectfully walk.
Em minha família original, nós navegamos pelas palavras firmes e diretivas de minha mãe, planamos pela musicalidade espontânea de meu pai, como pontos que aproximam mundos.
In my original family, we navigate by my mother's firm and directive words. We flank by my father's spontaneous musicality and bridges that bring words together.
Para pensar o conceito da epistemologia transdisciplinar, eu recolho fundamentos teóricos no pensamento complexo de Edgar Morin, na hermenêutica em Paul Ricoeur, no pensamento transpessoal de Pierre Weil, na estrutura arquetípica da psicologia de Carl Jung, no cuidado de si, como em Michel Foucault, na investigação dos estados da consciência de Charles Tart, entre outros grandes mestres da humanidade.
To think the concept of transdisciplinary epistemology, I gather theoretical foundations in Edgar Morin's complex thought, in Paul Ricoeur's hermeneutics, in Pierre Weil's transpersonal thoughts, in Carl Jung's archetypal structure of psychology, in Michel Foucault, Cares of the Self, Souci de Soi, in Charles Tart's investigation of the states of consciousness, among other great masters of humanity.
Para viver a transdisciplinaridade no cotidiano, com as variadas representações que sustentam maneiras de pensar e de agir, o objeto de cada pessoa é o respectivo ponto focal inicial, mas depois volta ao pensamento como uma realidade concretizada, por meio da relação entre a essência e a aparência dos fenômenos com os quais dialogamos.
To live transdisciplinarity in everyday life, with varied representation that sustain ways of thinking and acting, the object of each person is the respective initial focal point, but then returns to fold as a concretized reality through the relationship between essence and appearance of the phenomenon, with which we dialogue.
Considerando que o conteúdo corresponde à essência e a forma corresponde à aparência, ambos pertencem à mesma realidade e um não existe sem o outro, com as diferenças. Com relação... S'il vous plaît.
Considering that content corresponds to essence and form corresponds to appearance, both belong to the same reality, and one does not exist without the other, with the differences.
Com relação entre sujeito e objeto observado, o sujeito e a matéria se diferenciam, mas possuem uma interpelação entre ambos, e a consciência é a referência para as reflexões.
With respect to the relationship between subject and observed object, the subject and the matter are different, but they have an interpolation between both, and consciousness is the reference for reflections.
O mundo dessas representações de disputas e conquistas são ilusões que sustentam as maneiras de pensar.
The word of these representations of disputes and conquests are illusions that sustains way of thinking.
Com efeito, a vida não tem necessidade de opinião vazia, como afirma Foucault, mas de renovar-se sem perturbação, como um processo de conhecimento em que nada é recusado.
Indeed, life has no need for empty opinion, as Foucault states, but to renew itself without disturbance as a process of knowledge in which nothing is rejected.
Se nada precisa ser rejeitado, talvez o que se precisa é saber aproveitar o que a vida oferece para a construção do sujeito eficaz e efetivo naquilo que o constitui por ele mesmo.
If nothing needs to be rejected, perhaps what is needed is to know how to take advantage of what life offers for the construction of the subject that is efficient and effective in what constitutes it by itself.
Assim, a transdisciplinaridade no cotidiano pode ser entendida como uma maneira para cada sujeito mediar suas experiências, delas extrair novos e consistentes olhares para tudo o que observa, aproximando interesses e distanciando do que não lhe pertence.
Thus, transdisciplinarity in daily life can be understood as a way for each subject to mediate their own experiences, extracting from them new and consistent looks at everything they observe, bringing together interest and distancing themselves from what does not belong to them.
Importante que para essas mudanças é necessário ter a disposição para o autodesenvolvimento, como fortalecimento do ego pessoal, de si mesmo diante das circunstâncias tão variadas e diferentes com as quais o ser humano se depara no cotidiano.
Importantly for these changes, it is necessary to have the willingness for self-development as a strengthening of the personal ego of oneself in face of circumstances so varied and different that the human being faces in everyday life.
Parece que o ser humano se constrói a cada dia e conhece mais sobre o mundo além de si. Porém, aquilo que foi criado chega num ponto de observação e exige que o próprio Criador conheça mais sobre si mesmo.
It seems that the human being builds himself each day and knows more about the world beyond himself. However, that which has been created reaches a point of observation and requires the Creator himself to know more about himself.
That's it. Thank you, Mariana.
Leonardo, podemos passar para as referências, por favor? So, muito obrigada, engenheiro Leonardo. Here we have the references, and we are going to open the dialogue with the people present and who maybe want to ask questions for Dr. Juarez. Se há perguntas, por favor. Não mais perguntas? Vera, Vitória. Então, vamos continuar. Hubert Landier. Uma pergunta do professor Hubert Landier. Juarez, vamos para o francês e português, tá?
Je voudrais poser la question, est-ce que cette présentation absolument passionnante ne se fonde pas sur la philosophie phénoménologique, sur la démarche phénoménologique, illustrée notamment par Husserl, Heidegger et Emmanuel Levinas.
Oui, d'une certaine façon, puisqu'il cite Paul Ricoeur, donc, mais je vais lui poser la question. Será que esse foi exposé apaixonante não se baseia na fenomenologia por Heidegger e Husserl e Levinas também? So, in English, this very interesting exposé isn't it based on a phenomenological approach used as well by Heidegger, Husserl, and Emmanuel Levinas?
Certamente teria mais possibilidades de navegar por esses outros grandes filósofos, mas alguns deles, nas suas obras, parecem, de alguma maneira, na minha leitura, desistir de uma hermenêutica como em Ricoeur a gente encontra. Além disso...
Un minutinho. Il semble que ces philosophes abandonnent la tentative d'une herméneutique comme Paul Ricoeur a fait, que Heidegger, Levinas ne vont pas jusqu'à l'herméneutique de Paul Ricoeur, selon lui. E aussi, e também
por uma aproximação como pesquisador desses autores citados, que comungam, de alguma maneira, de um modo de vida semelhante ao que eu fui criado, onde eu nasci, e da maneira como tenho estudado, da maneira como tenho vivido, e da maneira como tenho trabalhado.
Você quer dizer, Juarez, que você vive de uma maneira que se aproxima dessa fenomenologia?
Isso, exatamente. Sim. E é esse ponto importante.
Il dit que ces auteurs le rapprochent de la façon dont il vit et dont il a vécu, c'est-à-dire que la phénoménologie lui semble correspondre à son histoire de vie. So, the question Hubert Landier made to Professor Juarez is about philosophy. He asked if the philosophy is not a phenomenological approach, as in Heidegger, as in Levinas, and in Husserl. And the professor said, yes, for sure, but I think Paul Ricoeur goes further on because he used a certain hermeneutics that the others don't apply. But for sure, my way of living on the everyday life is very near to the phenomenological approach in philosophy. Professeur Landier, est-ce que vous voulez rebondir? Il n'y a plus de son. Il n'y a plus de son.
Ah oui, thank you very much for this response.
Est-ce que vous voulez rebondir ou c'est bon pour vous?
C'est bon pour moi.
Okay.
Merci.
Merci, bon.
Je vais relire Paul Ricoeur.
Ele vai reler Paul Ricoeur. Então, eu não sei se eu traduzi em português. Traduzi ou não, né? Eu vou rapidamente, a pergunta que foi feita... para traduzir, porque o Juarez fala em português.
Eu falei em português. Uhum.
Então, traduzir. Então, acho que nós já podemos finalizar o evento, né? Nós vamos, então, estar terminando. We're going to end the event. We are going to the final reflection. I ask just a minute to take my Brazilian translation of the final reflection. Okay. And I would like to thank you so much, all of you, to be there with us tonight. Please, Engineer Leonardo, would you be so kind as to read the final reflection?
Yes, the final reflection was taken from a book from Dr. Mariana, and humans cannot be reduced to statistics, even though statistics are important, not to behavioral patterns based on external observation, even if these are great information source, for their reactions are relative to the inner context in which they are immersed, to their emotions, affects, an inner context open to infinite, impromptu, and sometimes superb variations of breath and joy finally shown. Democratic laws are there to authorize an evolutionary path common to our species, to protect this path of human development and not to allow it to be hijacked for the benefit of a minority who will oppress a majority doomed to ignorance, with the support of certain scientists or rather certain ideologies who reduce humans to potential consumers of debt payers. To understand humans, to get to know them, we need to meet them and see them evolve by giving them the condition to advance, to exercise the plasticity of their mind, and by showing them the joy of sharing their knowledge with others.
A pessoa humana não pode ser reduzida a estatísticas, mesmo que essas sejam importantes, nem a padrões de comportamentos baseados na observação externa, mesmo que esses sejam de grande valia, uma fonte de informação, pois as suas reações são relativas ao contexto interior em que está imersa, as suas emoções, seus afetos, um contexto interior aberto a variações infinitas, improvisadas e por vezes extraordinárias, de alento e de alegria finalmente manifestadas. As leis democráticas existem para autorizar um caminho evolutivo comum à nossa espécie, para proteger esse caminho de desenvolvimento humano e não permitir que ele seja desviado em benefício de uma minoria que oprimirá uma maioria condenada à ignorância, com apoio de certos cientistas, ou melhor dizendo, de certos ideólogos que reduzem o ser humano a um potencial de consumo ou de pagamento de dívidas. Para compreender uma pessoa, para conhecer, é preciso ir ao seu encontro e vê-la evoluir, dando-lhe condições para progredir, para exercitar a plasticidade do seu espírito e mostrando-lhe a alegria de partilhar os seus conhecimentos com os demais. On behalf of CIRET and CETRANS, on behalf of Engineer Leonardo and Professor Juarez, I wish to thank the presence of all of you. Thank you, merci, gracias, muito obrigada a todos aqui presentes por esse formidável encontro. E nós vamos então agora desligar